dubbing does, you pull your axle down, the dubbing forces the axle together.
You just grab it like that, and comb that back.
Right.
And hold it like that. And on the first wrap, then I'll comb it back.
Up into here.
You run it out.
The most exciting thing I can do is when I cut the thread and I watch the bobbin hit the floor. Now, I usually have a drink sitting right here for that. I'll let that one go. Underneath the breast, you know. Sometimes geese too. Mallards. Yeah. This is back in the antiquity when they had the fan wing royal coachman and the fan wing stuff. Ray Bergman and those old guys like me, you know. Now, would you put that in the shadow box? Well, that's where it's going to go. This is a fan wing royal coachman. These were tied back in probably back in the early 40s, the end of the 30s, and even who knows before. This particular pattern, the fan wing royal coachman, was featured in Ray Bergman's book, both Just Fishing and Trout. This has been one of my favorite patterns due to the fact that when the water is low and clear, lots of times this pattern, the way it dances on the water, air currents and water currents, the hackles move it, but the air currents move the wings, and so this fly comes alive on the water, and it's been responsible for the catching of many big brown trout.
Basically, the idea here is that I build up breaches, and this dubbing can match the color of the insect that they're matching. For the salty rust, straighten that post up, pull my fibers back out. I cut the front part of this hackle off and just a little bit of the back. Snip that off real low. And what that does is it mushrooms and holds that hackle fiber down. You can see you've got a real nice wing profile here. Pretty accurate and floats like a cork.
A leather worm pattern that I make out of New Zealand lambskin. It's very supple. Once it gets wet, it resembles a small leech, and it wiggles like crazy in the water. Streams and rivers that have a rocky bottom, because the hook rides up because it's a jig pattern. I start to wrap right below the bend, give it about 3 wraps, cinch it down a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to lift it up and go forward with the thread underneath. This will be the last segment. I usually do 4 segments. This will be the last one that I'll tie off. But this is very flexible. Once it gets wet, it's going to wiggle like crazy. And if you feel it after it gets wet, it feels just like a real worm. And when a fish bites it, it doesn't spit it out as if it was a hard piece of metal or epoxy. It's so supple and soft, the fish holds on to it. A young teenager, I used a jig and pig, and I call this as a joke a jig and lamb because it's lambskin. It's not pigskin. The lambskin just wiggles around like crazy. And when it goes through the current in the stream, it's pretty hard to resist.
This is a slate drake wet fly. As you can see, I got the wire in there already. And I'm going to wind that wire, bind it right into the body. And I'm going to bring it right in front of the tail. Not disturbing the tail because I want that tail to stand up. Just to lash everything down nice and tight.
That wing might be a little wider.
Then I'm going to take about 3 or 4 of these fibers right off of the tail. Then I'm going to tie them in right there in front of the tail. This feather isn't going to make it the whole way up to where I want to end it. So I got to take it up so far, end it, and then take 3 or 4 more and then finish it off. What I'm doing is I'm twisting that, and a lot of times you have to get the feel.
What are we calling this tie?
It's called a slate drake wet. But the hackles stand up just like that. And I'll end that off. Then I'll just select a hackle off of that hen, take these shot pliers, and I grab that stem dead center so that you have this. Start right in front of the thorax and you work the feather forward. You can see I've got that real nice sparse, or that the hackles are sticking out to the sides and underneath. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to work it back. And that's it.
This pattern is called a brookie fin. It was created by a woman by the name of Helen Shaw that wrote a book called Flies for Fish and Fishermen in 1989, and it's all about tying these traditional downwinged wet flies. I'm setting this wing, which pretty much was already made before the camera came on, but her design of this is patterned after the fin of a brook trout with white, black, there's a narrow band of red, and then also the main body of the wing is orange. And I'm just setting that in place on the head of the hook. That's pretty well about where I want it to be. So I'll trim the butt ends. And then just shape, wrap the butt end of the wing down really tight, and I'll shape and taper the head, and then the fly will be finished. Spin the thread counterclockwise to flatten it out. Wrap some more thread here, again just to shape. I want a nice kind of bullet shape, uniform taper to the head, and then just wiggle these butt ends, crimp a little bit. The gravity weight of that bobbin has pulled that down. Nice little notch in there. I'll repinch the tie-in point, draw this up to maximum, check my angle. I want it to be straight, top centered on the shank of the hook. Right there, rotate the vise. That's just centered as you can see it on the top. If I turn that around, trim these butt ends off. And finish off. Years ago, the old timers would take small fins, cut them off, the brook trout, put it on a hook and use it for bait. So the fly fishermen, of course, would take that information and create an artificial brook trout fin. They're very beautiful flies, and they're among some of the most favored to tie if you want to ever attempt a married wing wet fly. The trout fin wet flies are usually at the top of people's list once you learn the techniques of of how to manipulate the feathers and to do that.
I hear you said you're from Johnstown?
So that's a brookie
Okay,
fin.
we're from Johnstown. Okay.
There we go.
Hi, this is Justin Sparklin. We're here at the Seven Springs Sporting Clays Lodge, finishing up our fly tying event tonight. Had a great turnout, a lot of great tires here. Joe Humphries, Bob Clouser, Chuck Furimsky, and many more from the area. Had a great turnout, great night of food, some fly tying, and a room full of some very knowledgeable fly fishermen from all around the country who were having a good time coming up here to have a reunion of sorts. A lot of these guys are getting ready for fishing season. They're going to be guiding, and they were nice enough to come up and spend some time with us tonight. A lot of great techniques, a lot of information, and we hope to do it again next year about the same time.
We're hoping that spring is just around the corner, but it really warms my heart to meet with the legends of fly fishing in such an intimate setting. And it's wonderful. I mean, you really can just walk right up to one of these guys and ask them a question and enjoy their company.
I'm tying the Buchanan's stonefly, and what I'm doing right here now is working on the underbody. The underbody is formed with rug yarn, and with this technique you can copy any stonefly there is, and it's a unique way of doing it. Each piece has to be tied on the side of the hook to give the stonefly the flat appearance that we're hoping to obtain.
That's not a problem. Never thought of using rug yarn.
I think that's better for its light, nice and light.
The feathers that I was using for this fly, the back case is hen pheasant. Get this back case completed, I'll show you a unique way to put some legs on a stonefly. We're going to position the next set of legs so that they look like they come from underneath the body of the fly. And with this middle set of legs, I'm going to put 2 turns of dubbing, and there you go. And there you have an original Buchanan stonefly.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming to the 3rd annual Fly Tires reunion here at Seven Springs. It's winter time, but the fishing's right around the corner. I think it's going to get warmer in a couple of days, and we've been tying a lot of flies and showing people some of our techniques. We had a real big crowd of enthusiastic people tonight. A lot of young people too, which was really nice. Talked to a lot of teenage boys that are into fly tying and fishing, and you know, it's nice to see them getting involved in the outdoors. So we really had a good time tonight. We look forward to doing this again next year.